تحياتي واهلا بيكم معايا في حلقه جديده من سلسله هاجر لامريكا، الجزء الثاني من الكلام عن فيزا الاي بي 3. الولايات المتحده وزاره الهجره بتطرح 40 الف فيزا سنويا للناس في كل حته في العالم علشان يجوا يشتغلوا كعماله غير ماهره. يعني مش لازم يكون معاك شهاده علميه كبيره، هتيجي تشتغل حاجه من نوعيه الحد الادنى للاجور، تشتغل في مطعم او في بنزينه او في اعمال كونستراكشن او خلافه. 40 ألف فرصة ممكن تستفيد بيهم. حاجتين سريعا عايز أذكرهم. أصدقاء هيقولوا لي في التعليقات إن معهمش المبلغ المالي، وأنا على فكرة ما باخدش ده كعذر، لأنه ليا أصدقاء اشتغلوا على مواقع زي فريلانسر زي أبورك وعملوا وحوشوا فلوس في سنين قليلة وبقى معاهم المبلغ اللي يقدروا يصرفوا عليه في الحصول على الفيزا بتاعت الاي بي 3. التعليق التاني اللي بيوصلني دايما هو انه لو انا معايا المبلغ ده هقعد في بلدي وابقى ملك الملوك. ويا حبيبي اقعد في بلدك، مفيش اي مشكله، انا والاف غيري سيبناها لك مخدره، ولكن خلي بالك من التعويم، من التضخم، وما تجيش بعد كده تشتكي. قبل ما ندخل في كل الاسئله والتفاصيل بتاعت حلقه النهارده، بحب ارحب بميتشل. هو طبعا اللي بيمثل شركه بي دي في سولوشنز وهيجاوب معانا على كل الاسئله. ميتشل, how are you today? How's everything?
I'm wonderful. How are you? I'm doing great. Thanks for asking.
Good, thank you. I appreciate you taking the time to come back with us. This is going to be considered part two to the episode we recorded. I recorded last time with Chris. So we received about 750 comments with questions in them. Hopefully today we can pick the most frequent ones and try to answer them. So thanks again for taking the time.
You're welcome.
أنا هكون بترجم على طول بعد كل سؤال. الفيديو اتنشر من حوالي 4 شهور، جه عليه أكتر من 60 ألف مشاهدة، 3000 لايك، ويمكن أكتر من 750 تعليق وسؤال. ما تنسوش تسيبولي الأسئلة تحت الفيديو ده عن موضوع الاي بي 3، وكمان رابط بي دي في سولوشنز هيكون أول رابط في صندوق الوصف. Mitchell, I told the folks that the link to BDV's website where they can hop on, fill out the questionnaire is going to be in the description box below. All right, I'm ready. I'm very excited. You ready to jump into the first question?
Let's do it.
The most common question. Mitchell, once and for all, please give us the numbers. We need to know how much does it cost somebody, a single filer, to apply for the EB3 with BDV solutions if they do counselor processing for one person. Also give us the number if that person is a family, right? Him and his dependents. And also shed some light on the cost for the process as an adjustment of status from within the United States.
All right, let's dive into that. So for consular processing, the first payment is $11,000. And then we have two payment options from there. With payment option A, you make your second payment after your labor certification is approved, which right now is taking around 1 year. And then you make that second payment in full, which is $16,500. The total cost of that consular processing payment option A ends up being $27,500. For option B, it's still $11,000 payment in the beginning. And then you go on a monthly payment plan for 3 years, which is $591.67 per month. And that ends up totaling out to $32,300. It's a little bit more expensive, but it gives you kind of a more standard payment plan. For adjustment of status, it's similar. The cost is a little bit cheaper. The first payment for payment option A is $6,000. And then the second payment, again, which is paid after that labor certification approval, is $14,500. So for adjustment of status payment option A, it's $20,500. And then for option B is a $6,000 payment in the beginning, and then monthly for 2 years, $762.50 for 2 years. That ends up being $24,300. Again, it's a little bit more. It's financed out kind of monthly. And then dependents, if you are married or if you have children that are under the age of 21, they can join your application as a dependent. And for consular processing, it's a flat rate of $1,190 per dependent. For adjustment of status, it is $1,725 if the dependent is over 14 years old, and $1,225 if they're under 14 years old. So that's a lot of information, but
yeah, no, that's great. And let me translate real quick for the folks. طبعا ميتشل جاوب لنا بالظبط بالتفصيل، حط لنا كل الارقام، واللي يمكن انا مش هفتكرها دلوقتي كلها، ولكن هحطها على الشاشه عشان انا طبعا هوقف الفيديو واقول لكم بالظبط الاقتراحات اللي موجوده قدامكم ايه. ولكن واضح ان في طريقتين للدفع. الطريقه الاولى انك هتدفع دفعتين، الدفعه الاولى مع توقيع العقد اللي هي $11,000، بعد كده الدفعه الثانيه بعد موافقه وزاره العمل واللي هي بتكون حوالي $16,500. يبقى الاجمالي $27,000 لو هتقدم لوحدك من بلدك وهتعمل مقابله في السفاره. لو عملت كده من جوه امريكا الموضوع هيكون ارخص شويه، الدفعه الاولى هتكون $6,000. وكمان الاوبشن الثاني انك تقسط بعد الدفعه الاولانيه، يعني انت كده كده هتدفع المبلغ الاولاني اللي هو $11,000 لو انت في بلدك و$6,000 لو انت داخل امريكا. بعد كده بقى ممكن تقسط بشكل شهري، وهحط الارقام على الشاشه عشان كلكم تكونوا عارفينها. وقال لنا كمان ان $1,200 هو الفلات ريت او المبلغ اللي انت هتدفعه لكل فرد من افراد الاسره بتاعتك تحت سن 21 سنه. يبقى زوجتك واولادك هتدفع لهم بقى 1,200 مضروبه في عدد افراد الاسره. Mitchell, that was great. Let's move on to the next question. I want to ask you about scammers. Just like in every line of business, there are agencies, there are companies that act in good faith. They are reliable and people can trust them and proceed with them and pay them the money, especially when you talk about large sums of money. And there's also some that are not as good. I wanted to ask you about if you were the one who were picking the agency to apply for EB3 for yourself, how would you go about vetting the company? How would you know if this company is real or not, is reliable or not, that not someone who's going to take your money and run?
Yeah, it's a great question because the immigration market typically is plagued with scams and fraud. And I think if it were me trying to choose an EB3 agency, I'd be looking online first. I would be looking at reviews from companies. I would be trying to see if there were clients that were online talking about their case. That's what I would personally do. I think that one thing that's unique about BDV is we're really an online agent. So while a lot of other agencies have like physical offices in different places around the world, we have one office in Greenville, South Carolina, and clients will come and they'll fly and they'll come visit us. But we're pretty much all online. That kind of like cuts out this middleman layer of like this whole immigration agency market where there's a lot of people trying to sell their service. Ultimately, the way I see BDV is like the source of the main pipeline into the EB3 unskilled program. Like BDV Solutions is doing over half of all the EB3 unskilled visas in the United States. So we're by far the largest provider. And work with the most companies and have the most different diverse job offerings available to choose from.
Awesome. Mitchell, how long have BDV been in business, if you don't mind me asking?
So Britt Vergnal is our founder. She started BDV in 2013, maybe 2012. So we've been in business about over 10 years now. That's another thing that kind of sets us apart from the rest is that we've really been in this market for a long time, which means we have a lot of experience. Ultimately, that's what sets us apart, I think, from a lot of other agencies and competitors.
سألت ميتشل طبعا عن النصب في الموضوع. لو هو اللي بيقدم لنفسه هيختار الشركة ازاي؟ عشان زي ما عارفين في ناس كتير بيقلقوا من الموضوع ده. هو أكد لي ان شركة BDV يمكن ليها نصيب الأسد من حالات التقديم على الاي بي 3 داخل أمريكا. الشركة ليها مقر ومكتب في ساوث كارولاينا، وكمان بقالهم حوالي 10 سنين بيعملوا بيزنس في الموضوع ده داخل أمريكا. يعني لهم سمعة جيدة جدا، ويمكن نص الحالات اللي بتوافق عليها من داخل أمريكا بتيجي عن طريقهم. وطبعا ركز في كلامه جدا على التقييمات بتاعت الناس على الانترنت، لان معظم شغل الشركات دي بيكون اونلاين. فلازم عشان تطمئن ان الشركه اللي انت بتتعامل معاها سمعتها كويسه، ادخل وشوف الناس بتقول عليها ايه. الناس اللي زيك قدموا ودفعوا وكتبوا عقد معاهم بيقولوا ايه على الشركه دي. وواضح طبعا من كلامه ان BDV يعني يمكن من اكبر الشركات اللي موجوده في امريكا. Let's move on to the next question. Aside from scammers, we have good agencies out there, but the price of the service kind of fluctuates. So some may be more expensive than others. So I want to ask you, what sets BDV apart? BDV is known to be one of the more, or on the more expensive side. Why do you think that is justified? Why shouldn't somebody pick the cheapest company out there and just goes with that?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, it's up to the consumer what they really want. You know what I mean? And I think ultimately you pay for what you get. And with BDV, you get a top tier service. We have 75 full time employees in our office that are managing our clients' cases and making sure that everything's on track. And so I think, and there are also different kind of supplemental pieces to our service at different stages of the process. We have a client services team that helps our clients once they actually get settled in their new location. They help them find a place to live. They help them find schools for their children, religious organizations in the area. So we have kind of different teams at different stages that assist our clients. One thing that's really unique about BDV is we have a government relations team. They work directly with USCIS, the Department of Labor, and the State Department regarding kind of various things in immigration policy, and also managing our clients' cases on a like on a political level, doing congressional inquiries when necessary for specific cases that are taking a long time or are deemed kind of stuck. So there's a lot of stuff that we're doing in the background to keep our clients' cases moving forward.
Very good. سألت ميتشل على ليه بي دي في غالية شوية، يمكن سعرها مقارنة بشركات تانية موجودة يعني بتكون مكلفة شوية زيادة، وهو قال لي إن أنت بتدفع ثمن الخدمة اللي أنت بتاخدها. لو هتسترخص هتاخد خدمة نص نص، لو أنت هتدفع وما عندكش مشكلة هتاخد الخدمة اللي أنت تكون مستحقها. وواضح جدا إن شركة بي دي في عندهم 75 فول تايم امبلويي، يعني 75 موظف شغالين في الشركة بيساعدوه في كل خطوة من خطوات التقديم. ما بيسيبكش يعني بعد ما تحصل على الجرين كارد، لا ده انت كمان بتلاقي مسانده، عايز حد يوصلك بالجامع او الكنيسه اللي موجوده، حد يساعدك في كل الخطوات بعد ما توصل امريكا. كمان لو الحاله بتاعتك محتاجه اي مساعده سياسيه، قال لي ان هم متواصلين مع الحكومه، ودي يمكن دي حاجه مش هتلاقيها في يعني شركات كتيره، ان يبقى ليهم علاقه قويه مع الجفرمنت، مع السيناتورز، مع الناس يعني اللي يقدروا يتواصلوا معاهم ويمشوا الحاله بتاعتك. واضح تماما انه في النهايه الموضوع هيرجع للخدمه اللي انت هتدفع ثمنها. لو هتدفع شويه زياده هتاخد حاجه احسن. Mitchell, let's move on to the next question, which is regarding the fact that some agencies, I'm not saying BDV, but some other agencies, they could be selling a timeline or a plan for folks before they sign up with them. And when they actually go ahead and make the first payment and sign the contract, they realize that there's a change of plan. How would you like advise folks to deal with that? Is that really typical, or
So it's a great question. BDV actually, we don't provide a timeline to people anymore. It's important for people to understand what they're getting into when they sign up for a US immigration process. And that is uncertainty at times. Processing times change. Things, I've been at BDV for 6 years. I've seen multiple things kind of get thrown in, just random things. Donald Trump at one point made people file this new document that kind of made the process take longer. And the attorney actually had charged an additional fee to do that because it took them so much time to file it. So those were unexpected costs at one point for our clients. Unexpected timelines, definitely. People are experiencing that right now with visa retrogression, where they've almost paused the case processing right now for the EB3 unskilled category while they process the backlog of cases that currently exists. And so that's part of the deal when you sign up for a process like this. If there's a entity out there that is promising a timeline to you or promising something like that, run the other direction, because it just doesn't exist. And ultimately, you need to have a realistic expectation of what you're getting into, and the flexibility in your mind that, hey, things can change throughout the process. That's again why you want to have a good solid partner that you know that you can trust, regardless of whatever turbulence there is amidst your case. You have a team that you can rely on to get the job done.
سألت ميتشل عن الشركات أو الايجنسيز اللي بتوعد الناس بحاجات معينة، بتايم لاين معين أو بخطة معينة، وبعد كده بيرجعوا يغيروا الكلام بعد ما بتوقع العقد معاهم وتدفع القسط الأول. يكون قايل لك مثلا هقدم البيرم سيرتيفيكيشن في شهر كذا، يرجع بعد ما تدي لهم الفلوس يقول لك لا ده احنا غيرناها شهر كذا. ميتشل قال لي ان البي دي في عمرها ما بتعمل كده، عمرها ما بتدي لك تايم لاين محدد، لان في حاجات بتطلع ساعات من الحكومه. وضرب لي مثال بان ترامب مثلا قال لهم في فورم معينه لازم تملوها، وبالتالي اخذت وقت ومجهود وتكاليف زياده للمحامي وخلافه. فبي دي في من الشركات اللي عمرها ما بتضمن لك او بتحاول ان هي تبيع لك خطه معينه محدده يعني بكل تفاصيلها من البدايه. لا، هم بيراهنوا اكتر على الثقه اللي موجوده بينك وما بينهم، بيدوا لك يعني فكره عن الوقت ممكن يكون قد ايه، ولكن بدون ضمانات. وهو نصح ان لو في شركه معينه قالت لك بالظبط ان الموضوع هياخد الوقت الفلاني بالظبط وكل حاجه يعني متحدده من قبليها، يبقى اعرف ان الموضوع فيه ان. My next question is regarding the difficulty with which people can find an EB3 opportunity on their own. Why do my friends in the Middle East need an agent like BDV to help them find an EB3 opportunity, in your opinion?
Yeah, if you can find an EB3 opportunity by yourself, by all means, try to do that. But in practical matters, it typically doesn't really work out. There's a couple of reasons why. Typically, you're not going to find a company that's going to be willing to go through this whole rigorous process that takes years at this point for one applicant. So one thing that BDB does is we have relationships with very large companies that can sponsor a lot of people at one time that are willing to, go through that and get into all the logistics of that. You might find a sponsor and then they're like, yeah, I'm going to do it. But then ultimately they don't actually qualify to sponsor a foreign worker. So you have to hire an attorney, or here's the other thing. In a typical case, the employer will actually pay for all of the cost of this process, and then the employee will come. With EB3 and working with EB3 agents, that's a little bit different because the employer makes no money in the process, but the employer is not having to pay the legal fees of the client. The client is legally allowed to pay those fees themselves. And so the client is in this process is paying those legal fees for their I-140. BDV, we are a business because this is a whole business in itself to manage these cases. Typically, employers are focused on their own businesses. They're running fast food restaurants, they're running hotels, whatever it might be. They're not immigration agents. They're not answering your phone calls, giving you updates on your case and stuff like that. So it's not super realistic to do it. But if you can, by all means, try. Or if you think you can, try. But I think what you'll find is it's incredibly difficult.
That makes sense. سألت ميتشل ليه العقود بتاعت الاي بي 3 مش متوفره او ما بتعرفش تجيبها لوحدك؟ يعني ليه انت محتاج شركه زي بي دي في او اي ايجنت تاني علشان تجيب العقد ده؟ وقال لي الموضوع له اسباب متعدده، واهمها طبعا انه الشركات اللي عندها عقود العمل مش عايزه تجيب شخص واحد، بيبقى عايز يجيب افراد متعدده في فروع مختلفه، ومش هيقعد بقى يضيع وقته في مكالمات ويرد على اسئلتك. لا، هو عايز حد عايز زي بيزنس لوحده منفصل زي شركه بي دي في، هي اللي تمانج الموضوع ده وتعمل له يعني اداره للتعيين وانه يجيب عماله من بره. ما يبقاش هو عايز يركز في البيزنس بتاعه، ولكن هو بيقول لك لو لقيت خير وبركه اتكل على الله، لو عرفت انت تجيب عقد بنفسك يبقى ما فيش اي مشكله. ولكن كمان وضح لي انه كتير من الشركات الصغيره ما بيبقوش عارفين البروسيس معقده، يعني فيها تفاصيل كتير، لازم يعين محامي، وناس كتير ممكن يقول لك انا ادي لك عقد عمل، ولكن هو مش عارف الموضوع هيكلفه وقت ومجهود وفلوس قد ايه. يعني من الاخر الموضوع معقد وصعب جدا جدا انك تلاقي عقد بنفسك. Mitchell, I have some statistics here I want to run by you. I printed this out from the USCIS, and it says the number of EB visas, categories 1, 2, 3, so on and so forth. During the year of 2022, the total numbers by country, which is very important for my friends in the Middle East. And I wanted to ask you if this makes sense. A country like Egypt, for example, they had 17 visas were issued for a country like Egypt in 2022. Does those number kind of make sense to you?
It's only 17. And that goes to show how underdeveloped the Egyptian market is with the EB3 program. In other countries, it's already caught on. I mean, so many people have already gotten green cards and told their friends and their family. That hasn't really happened in Egypt. We have clients from Egypt that have already gotten their green cards through consular processing and adjustment of status that have done it, but the numbers like aren't that big. So yeah, I mean 17 people last year, that sounds pretty accurate.
سألت ميتشل عن أعداد الفيز بتاعة الإي بي 3 اللي تم طرحها خلال سنة 2022. الموقع من وزارة الهجرة هتلاقوه في صندوق الوصف تحت الرابط بتاع بي دي في، وهتقدروا من خلاله تعرفوا كل بلد تم إصدار فيزا إي بي 3 قد إيه لأصحاب البلد دي. بلد زي مصر كان 17 فيزا تم إصدارهم من سفارة القاهرة للإي بي 3 unskilled worker. وميتشل قال لي طبعا ده معناه إن الفرصة كبيرة وموجودة ل يعني سوق زي مصر والشرق الأوسط، إن الناس لسه لغاية دلوقتي مش مستغلة ال40,000 فيزا اللي أمريكا بتطرحهم بشكل جيد. في بلاد تانية يعني كل الناس بقى بتعرف بعض وكل قريب بيجيب قريبه. Mitchell, the next question is regarding adjustment of status. I have a lot of friends who are now inside the United States on a B2 visa. They have about 6 months of legal stay, typically, on average, and they are very interested in adjusting their status. How do you think they should go about that? Do they need to first change their status from the B2 to the F1, maybe study ESL, English, or whatever, to allow themselves some more legal stay within the United States to allow for the application of EB3? Or do you have other suggestions?
Yeah, so if you're on a B visa in the United States, you can actually adjust your status from a B visa. Sometimes the timing of that B visa doesn't necessarily work out. So there are instances where some people might choose to study in the United States, and in doing that, getting more legal status, more time in status. I will say right now is especially tough, pointing back to the visa retrogression, because based on the current timeline as of this month, October 2023, people adjusting their visa status in the United States can't file that adjustment of status form unless they started their process before December of 2020. So that means that there's a lot of people right now that are kind of stuck having to maintain a legal status in the United States for an indefinite amount of time. It's made it a lot more complicated for a select group of our clients that are at that stage of the process. Now, it's the labor certification is the first step of the EB3 process. That takes about 1 year. So that gives you a full year of runway for progression to be made in the visa bulletin and in the retrogression. And we anticipate for that visa bulletin to shrink and for them to start processing cases more normally, which, for some reference, the beginning half of 2022 and 2021, they were processing visas like crazy, no wait times at all. And so this is more of a current situation right now. It definitely makes the adjustment of status process more challenging, but you can definitely qualify for adjustment of status, possibly with a B visa. And again, some people will change their status within the United States to keep an active status longer or to remain in the United States for the duration of the process.
Yeah, so let me follow up with another question. So what you're basically saying is that it may be very difficult to maintain the legal status before a person is able to apply for USCIS. So just getting the perm certification is not enough to maintain a legal stay. It's just basically the first step. But until an application on I-140 or whatever is applied,
the I-140 can even be filed as well. It's really the I-485 adjustment of status filing that can't be filed, and that is the document that really puts you in this pending adjustment of status period.
Yeah.
So and that's where you also file for a work permit. So people are stuck right now. And I just made a video about this yesterday, but it is relevant right now. But and this is why immigration is so complicated. this could change really like in any given moment in theory. So while we're talking about it right now and it might affect someone, let's say they sign up, maybe 6 months goes by, the government clears the backlog and it's gone. Just the problem just evaporates in thin air.
سألت ميتشل على الناس اللي جوه أمريكا على فيزا سياحة وعايزين يقدموا على الإي بي 3 عشان يقننوا وضعهم. قال لي طبعا إن الموضوع برضو فيه نوع من عدم اليقين، لأنه في أي لحظة ممكن الفيزا بوليتن تتغير، ممكن أرقام تبقى كورنت أو يعني يبقى خلاص بيسرعوا الإجراءات بتاعتها، وممكن ما تبقاش بنفس السرعة اللي أنت منتظرها. ولغاية ما تقدم الفورم أو الاستمارة بتاعة الاي 485 اللي هي بتاعة الادجستمنت ستاتس، أنت لازم تكون قانوني داخل البلد. فهو مش عارف أو مش قادر يقول لي دي هتاخد وقت قد ايه من ساعه اما تقدم على البيرم سيرتيفيكيشن لغايه اما يسمحوا لك انك تقدم الاي 485. ممكن تبقى فتره طويله. هل انت هتكون جاهز او قادر انك تقعد الفتره دي كلها على فيزا الدراسه؟ يعني موضوع هيستحق البحث، ولازم تتواصل مع الفريق العمل بتاعهم زي ما قال لي، لازم تتواصل مع السيلز تيم علشان يشوف الخطه او الطريقه اللي هتكون مناسبه ليك ولحالتك الشخصيه. الموضوع في الادجستمنت ستاتس يمكن معقد شويه عن لو انت هتقدم من بلدك. Mitchell, my last question of today is regarding the answer to the most popular question regarding being overqualified. I have the majority of my friends from the Middle East are people with bachelor degree, people who are dentists or pharmacists or doctors or engineers, and they are very afraid that during the interview, the person at the embassy will see clearly that they're overqualified to be working at McDonald's or Chick-fil-A or whatever. What is a textbook answer for this famous question?
The number one thing to think here is your current occupation that you're in is not relevant whatsoever. So as long as you are willing and able to work at McDonald's in that job that you signed up for, that's all that matters. And if an officer knows that you are actually higher skilled, that's fine. And they might ask, oh, you're a doctor, why are you working at McDonald's? And you need to answer honestly, and you need to tell them, I found an opportunity to get a green card. I found an employer that was willing to sponsor me in this job, and I'm willing to do that job. And, most of our clients are overqualified. I would venture to say pretty much all of them are overqualified, but it's no problem. We've never had any person. We've had many clients get that question. Ultimately, it's about being honest. They don't want you to make up some reason as to why you're going to be the best McDonald's worker in the world. They much more appreciate your genuine honesty and real answer.
سألت ميتشل عن السؤال الأشهر: ليه أنا أكون دكتور أو مهندس أو صيدلي ورايح أشتغل في ماكدونالدز؟ السؤال اللي أنت هتتسأله في السفارة واللي أنت عايز تعرف الإجابة النموذجية عليه. وهو قال لي إنه مبدئيا كده شغلتك السابقة أو شهادتك العلمية حاجة مش مؤثرة على شغلك الجديد اللي أنت ناوي تشتغل، طالما أنت موافق. محدش له حاجة عندك من الآخر. يعني أنت راجل مهندس أو دكتور وعايز تشتغل في ماكدونالدز، دي حريتك الشخصية. الحكومة الأمريكية بقت عارفة إن الكاتيجوري بتاع الاي بي 3 الانسكيلد وركر ده طريق شرعي وموجود علشان الناس تحصل على جرين كارد. فهو نصيحته كانت إنه تكون صادق في الإجابة. وكل موظفين السفاره عارفين دلوقتي انه الناس بتيجي تشتغل سنه في ماكدونالدز وبعد كده بيفيدوا المجتمع الامريكي بقى بشغلتهم الاصليه سواء كمهندس او دكتور. المهم ان انت تكون صادق، ده طريق شرعي موجود وانت عايز تستفيد منه، وانت موافق انك تشتغل في ماكدونالدز، وانت قادر انك تقوم بمهام العمل بتاعتك بغض النظر بقى عن شهادتك العلميه اللي انت واخدها قبل كده كانت ايه. Mitchell, that covers all the questions that I had for today. Thank you so much for taking the time. Any last words before we end the recording?
Thank you for the great questions. I think that they were challenging in a good way because it's really what people are thinking when they're signing up for a service like this. And so I am happy to be able to address these things with you, and I hope that it provides more clarity for your followers.
طبعا شكرت ميتشل على انه اخذ الوقت وقضاه معانا، وحابب افكر كل الاصدقاء ارجوكم يا جماعه ما تسمعوش كلام الناس اللي في التعليقات اللي بيردوا على الاسئله ببساطه كده. ليه؟ لان فيهم ناس بنيه طيبه بيحاول يقول لك معلومه ولكن ممكن يكون هو غلطان او مش فاهم او متلخبط. ده غير طبعا انك مش هتعرف تفرق ما بين الناس اللي نيتها كويسه والناس المحبطين اللي عايزين يقولوا لك اي كلام علشان يهبطوا عزيمتك. وصلني ايميل واثنين و3 من اصدقاء لما نزلت الحلقه اللي فاتت من 4 شهور وقالوا لي ايه ده، انت ليه حطيت اسم شركه بي دي في عندك على القناه كده؟ الناس كلها هتهجم عليهم وتقلل فرصتهم. يعني هم انانيين لدرجه انه مش عايزين حد تاني يستفيد بالمعلومات ويبقى عنده الفرصه، فممكن يضللوك في الاجابه، يكتب لك اجابه علشان يهبطك ويطلعك من المنافسه اللي هو داخل فيها. فارجوك مره تانية ما تسمعش كلام حد الا اذا كان انا اللي مجاوب على السؤال. ادخل على رابط بي دي في سولوشنز، هيكون اول رابط في صندوق الوصف. املى الكويشنير، حط معلوماتك المبدئيه، ما بتكونش طويله، صفحه واحده، هيردوا على الكويشنير بتاعتك او الابلكيشن اللي انت مليتها، وتعرف بالظبط وتاخد الاجابه منهم هم. وفي الاخر بشكر كل الاصدقاء اللي بيدوسوا لايك على الفيديو، وما تنساش تسبسكرايب، واشوفكم في الحلقه الجايه. سلام.